this is definitely an opportunity to connect greater in community, and yeah, and to share, to chat, to channel Q&A. However, you as a, and us as a collective of light want to, co-create in this space. So, yeah.
So I guess let's dive in with, some of the astrology that's taking place. It's, of course, very auspicious that we're gathered here on the strawberry supermoon. We have a full moon in Sagittarius today, which peaked at 7:51 Eastern Standard Time. But of course, we're still very much in that potent energy. And it is potent, right? A supermoon is when we are closer to the moon and we feel the effects and the impact even greater, right? Full moons are always a time of energetic release. It's about a cycle that is sort of culminating, and it's something that we're really working on consciously or unconsciously to clear and to release. And so with the Sagittarius Gemini axis, it's all about communication, it's about beliefs, it's about our perspectives, and it's about really expanding. And so when we look at, the full moon at 23 degrees in Sagittarius and the sun at 23 degrees in Gemini, the sun is really shining a light on Sagittarius. It's really illuminating these themes. And so some of the themes with Sagittarius are themes of spontaneity, of excitement, of following your truth, of freedom, of joy,
Yay.
Yes, it is. There's lots to celebrate and expand into. And, Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter, which is the largest planet in the solar system. And Jupiter really is bringing about a sense of expansion and abundance. It is a really beneficial planet of really expansion and opportunity, and really wanting to open us up to greater abundance, greater opportunity. So where can we allow that in our lives to flow through? And so that's some of the themes that are, coming up with this full moon. We also have, a lot of energy in Aries. So we have Mars and Chiron conjunct in Aries, and then Jupiter is at 5 degrees of Aries, so in the first decan of Aries. And that energy is really like propelling us forward in a new way, of really helping us to step outside of our comfort zone, to move forward and take a risk. And, we might not see all the stairs on the staircase, but really trusting, following our intuition, following our inner guidance, that those stairs will appear as we continue to move and take steps forward and follow our highest joy and excitement.
Yeah, I love that. As though it wasn't already catalyzing enough, right, with the planetary alignments in the, as they are. Of course, we have this massive sheets of diamond plasma and solar plasma light coming in and really enhancing and exacerbating, all of these planetary alignments and expressions. And so one of the things in which I feel like is so true of this time is, and it really started to present itself very significantly, well, arguably of the last, well, infinitely, but really, this year and right now is rebirth and resurrection. And even though we're coming into that sweet space of, the end of spring cleaning, right, at the end of the spring and entering into the summer, that continuation of massive turnover, cellular turnover, and as the plasma light fields come in, the solar frequencies come in, to your point of how it interacts with Sagittarius and Gemini and really illuminates and it further expresses, it's doing the same thing within, within our spirit bodies, within our emotional bodies, within all of our bodies and our physical bodies. So, we hear this, we've been hearing it, we've brought it through and shared it, over and over again. This is an epic time of rebirth and resurrection, and these energies are so palpable. And then, yeah, throw into it, this super moon, full moon, and it's just like, one thing after the next. So a lot of times in session, etc., and in community, I'm hearing the question, well, when do we get a little break with this? Or, when do things seem to be tapering off? And I would say this is really a deep, deep offering and invitation for even more surrender, because it really doesn't seem to be tapering off at any point. It feels like, from my vantage point, of what comes through, that we really continue on this trajectory of more and more and more and more energies and plasma and activation coming in. And then maybe in the tail end of October going into November, there's what seems to be a plateau, but necessarily no declining in sort of that which is coming in, because these plasma fields, additionally to the many, many things that they do and they serve, really hold and stabilize the change and what's being offered in way of illumination. So,
wow,
yeah,
yes, potent. There is a build, and I can feel it. And the rebirth and resurrection is such a potent theme of this year. I think that in a way, it's like we're being so divinely prepared for, just all the change that is taking place, and the change within ourselves, as you so beautifully shared. It is just a dance and a movement of coming into an even greater sense of our own inner energetic foundation, building that space and that place of receptivity that we do feel like we can weather any storm, any type of turbulence, anything around us, because we've become so, unshakable in our own inner peace and inner strength.
Yeah, I love that you bring that in, because, as we know, we hear it in so many different ways and through different communities and, way shares of really hunkering down into a deeper level of engagement, comfortability, and inner awareness and connection to the 0 point, right? To that still point, the neutral point, the present moment, right? We've been hearing it for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. Yet again, those, to your point in sharing, like those foundational truths and spiritual practices, it's like time to get back to the basics during a time of such epic nature that is so far from basic, right? So far from basic in terms of its presentation of the polarity to that which we've experienced as, the veils of illusion and duality, right? So if one takes it back to its origin point, it's actually, we're getting back to a place of, of our original angelic template, right? Of the highest expression of our crystalline architecture, which could be, an expression of getting back to the basics, essentially. Yet, because we've been in such a period of the dark ages of consciousness, and that's played out on, a physical, mental, emotional, and spirit level, it feels anything but basic. So coming into and attuning and really finding that sweet connection and stillness, and becoming the eye of the storm, becoming the eye of this massive rebirth and what seems to be chaos, right? Which, as we know, chaos is usually what we feel or associate with a massive reorganization of systems and so forth, before it has, inevitably comes back into the flow of a greater system and a higher system and an ascended system of organization, right? So getting back into some of the foundational practices and practice. I know some of us, who played sports and did different things growing up, whereby maybe we were sort of a little bit more than nudged into doing things that maybe at the time we couldn't see the value in. What is continues to sort of be sort of a universal and timeless truth is consistency and showing up, right? And just like anything, like we get more into it, we embody it more, we you know, flow with it more when we're consistent in our practice of it, right? When we're consistent in our connection to it.
I love that. And I'm laughing because an image or a metaphor around sports came through this morning for me. And I was just reminded of, you know, growing up playing soccer, and there was so much running that was involved. And I just hated running at the time, and I would, you know, dread it and you know, get kind of anxious about it. And you know, now I really enjoy jogging and moving in that way. But it was about like really finding my own way of enjoyment around those practices. And I think to your sharing about finding a practice is like really finding a way to make it your own and make it enjoyable, and you know, create in such a unique way that honors your own energy, that honors your own body, you know, how you're feeling in the moment. And I feel like,
Yeah, that it's and you know, to highlight the Sagittarius energy, right? The full moon in Sagittarius, but also I feel like that, you know, that really carries into just, you know, the summer energy, right? The rhythm of Gaia, the, you know, everything's in bloom, everything's in full life force energy and expression. It's in its wake state, it's in its creative state, it's in its, you know, its full movement and flow, right? Full vibrancy of colors and full range of color, right? And I think it's always a mirror and it's always an invitation. So how can we bring in more color and more vibrancy and more life and more movement and more expression, right? And so I think it's just a really profound time of the year to cultivate some new ways of entering into those very basic practices, to your point, right? Make it your own and bring in the joy. And I can't remember what it was, but recently, I feel like, oh, it was yesterday at the 0 point. You know, one way we could possibly meditate is, you know, through like skipping and, you know, or riding our bikes and, you know, and so breaking outside of what may feel almost stagnant or cumbersome, and having fun and exploring, and you know, and something that's come through for multiple people in sessions is the beauty of connecting with water, you know, and meditating through doing, you know, gentle strokes and connection with swimming and movement in water. So yeah, I just feel like there's such an abundance of life force energy teeming through humanity and Gaia right now. It can bring forth some fun in some creative way.
absolutely, yeah. And abundance is such a beautiful word because I feel like, you know, with that Sagittarius, that Jupiter energy during this lunation, it is about, you know, where can we receive more and where can we open ourselves up for greater abundance. And so some of the things, you know, the themes of maybe releasing and letting go during this full moon is, you know, because Sagittarius is all about ideas and perspective and higher knowledge. And so it might be, you know, where am I valuing logic above my own intuition, above my own inner guidance? Where am I valuing, you know, the beliefs of other people's perspectives above my own? You know, where is there that little bit of lack or limitation or unworthiness that I am ready to let go of? You know, and that is opening us up really, you know, to enter the summer solstice and, you know, as we move from Gemini to Cancer season.
Yeah, I love that. That I mean, it always comes up, right, as a part of our integration of self-love and compassion and grace is, you know, letting go of, you know, seeking outside ourselves for the answers, for the acceptance, for the value, you know, and coming back home, coming back in. One thing that I feel is very exciting that came through as part of this epic time, specifically catalyzed by yet another significant diamond portal of energy opening up into summer solstice, is that the archetype of the mirror is being rebirthed on a grander scale. And so what they were saying about is all things created here, organic and inorganic, are in some way a mirror and reflection to the Gaian template in the human genome. This is part of the original creation plan and divine template that must be abided by, or it simply cannot exist within the scope of consciousness of humanity. So in other words, what has been played off of, whether we perceive it, as part of the separation matrices or part of, the greater system of, or, the organic nature of actual nature in Gaia, there's this really beautiful archetype of the mirror coming through that allows for us to see, how we participate in this and how our external reality is a reflection to even a deeper degree of our relationship with ourself and our cells. And so the plasma fields that are coming in are really allowing for us to have a greater embodied understanding and experience, taking it from the intellectually understood concept to a greater embodied felt sense and experience of what it means to participate, in this plasma, right? What it means to be a holographic universe, right? What it means to exist in multiple timelines simultaneously. So we all have gotten little flavors and tastes of that, and certainly, so many different beautiful channelings and books and things that have come through with it. But now comes the time where, those who are present and showing up and connected to the now moment get to experience that on a whole new layer and level. So as this archetype of the mirror steps in a greater way within the diamond grid network of Gaia, we're able to really get clear with, deep layers and levels of how we're participating, in our created reality. Yeah.
That energy. I shared with you earlier, I feel like there's a significant portal that has opened, in June 666, and that will continue to build to Lionsgate, which is on August 8th, 8/8. And, the numerology is significant. I think, we noticed this last year. There was such a significant, opening, and then kind of, really based on our intention and our creation, seeing that on such a grand and significant scale, and really, I think, magnified during the Lionsgate portal. And so, what I think is interesting about this cycle that I was being shown is just the energy around moving from air to water to fire. So it's the energy of, being curious, having it in, curiosity in your mental realm, maybe asking questions, and then bringing it into an intuitive sense of connecting with the emotions, honoring what you're feeling, seeing on a deeper level, maybe dreaming about it, and then fire is that activation, that physical form, that moving forward. And, I think what's interesting too is just the movement that we're going to be seeing, astrologically building up into that time, around the end of July. We have a square again between Saturn and Uranus that is, I think, emphasized by the fact that Venus is going to be so close to the North Node and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And just, all the things that are coming through around really intentionally creating your reality based on what you're desiring to bring into physical form.
So interesting as you were just describing that, and I'm not well versed in astrological blueprints as much as I am just in, connecting in sort of the higher realms of expression of how things are coming through to manifest. But as you were showing or talking, I was just watching the energy of it, and what it felt like is like the movie The Matrix, where like Keanu Reeves is like, right? So like so much is happening, and yet they're in the Taurus energy. It allows for it to sort of slow down in terms of its digestibility. So I feel like there's such a great significance to that Taurus aspect of allowing for the grounding and the integration of what seems on certain levels of experience nearly impossible to ground here, right? Because of just so much movement and so much, there's just such a rapid sort of movement and flow of energy. Yeah.
Beautiful aspect of Taurus, and that embodiment aspect of really moving at a slower pace, bringing it into the body. Absolutely. And I'd love for us to explore the summer solstice, because I feel like that's a significant, opening leading up into Lionsgate, leading up to some of these, astrological transits that we're talking about. It's feeling really significant and like a beautiful time. With the summer solstice, the earth is, the way the earth is tilted, it's closest to the sun. And so we have, in the northern hemisphere here, such a direct connection to the sun, and such ability to honor the light that surrounds us, but also to honor the light that is within each of us. And, I know that sometimes it's easy to recognize and celebrate the light that we see in other people. And I just feel that this is such a beautiful opportunity to really recognize, honor, celebrate the unique expression of source light that each one of us holds.
All for that. Yeah. And I feel like, that really plays into one of the main archetypes of, resurrected during this whole linear year is that of sovereignty, right? Of coming back into the full embrace of ourselves as source, but also celebrating in the unique, blueprint and the unique expression and individuation of light and sound that we are. And these plasma fields, these diamond plasma fields, and the solar energy that's coming in is really, it goes beyond something that, we kind of think of in these sort of this higher levels of consciousness, and sort of hold it in sort of a different realm. And now it's here. It's here. It's coming here. It's here to stay. And it really assists us in grounding in, those greater depths of awareness of what our unique sound and light signature are, because with it is the ignition of lots of source codes. And, and again, returning us to our original angelic template. And people often, well, what does that mean? Like, how does that, well, what it means is, of course, many, many things. But what it assists us in is, as we transition our carbon-based DNA, our slower moving and somewhat, if not, greatly manipulated DNA that has kind of held us in its limited expression and use, held us in these lower dimensional frameworks of consciousness, right? And held us and kept us so that we can, really only hold to any great degree of grounding and rooting the bandwidth of consciousness of first, second, third, and and entering into fourth, density. Whereas as we activate this dormant potential within our DNA that's always existed, but was awaiting these nutrients, the nourishment of the solar frequencies and the plasma light, and and our own unique blueprints and how they activate, etc., and all the different alignments, awaiting this now moment to come into this higher operating system, this crystalline operating system, transitioning out of the carbon-based DNA into our crystalline DNA. And so one thing I thought was really cool, and interestingly, I get a lot of downloads when I'm drying my hair. I don't know if it's just like the white noise. I'm like, what does this mean? But one thing that came in a really big way is how this One Source Collective came forth to show how really, and again, this just again plays into a sort of another perspective or a layer of this whole mirrored reality in which we're living in, is that arguably all things created, within this reality, mimic some aspect of human design, of the human, of our physical temples, of our, of all of our bodies, physical, emotional, mental, and spirit bodies. And so they were showing how many similarities there are between the human and computers, and how we don't consider ourselves this, we consider ourselves just this body, well, I'm sure those of us who are here can, but generally speaking, humanity, sees themselves as just a physical body that you come in here, you experience, you leave, you drop the body, but we're these high vibrational technologies, very similar to a computer. And so, when we hear about ascension, which is, we're not doing it as we have a lot of us in previous lifetimes, where we drop the physical body and we ascend and we leave the physical body. We're meant to come in this timeline, right, in this ascension timeline, and really honor the physical body, knowing that it's comprised of all of the layers and levels of the elemental frequencies of Gaia. So Gaia, humanity as a whole, and all beings in and upon are coming into this ascension. So it's bringing the light in. It's resurrecting and activating, this highly advanced computer system that has just been sort of overloaded with viruses. I thought that was funny when they brought that in. I was like, oh yeah, like, viruses and old programs and things that run at a slower speed. And it's time to clean all of that out, to reboot, to resurrect, to come back. And so now all these systems of light and plasma are coming in to assist us in doing that. And I thought that was such a cool metaphor, but also reality, that it goes beyond a metaphor. And they were showing even deeper sort of depths of literally how the computer was designed based on some of our higher vibrational crystalline technology that we were always meant to experience here and embody here.
And as you were sharing about waiting for DNA to be activated, I was seeing like this garden with plants just kind of waiting and absorbing the nutrients from the sun, from the earth. All of that is available to us. And what I love about the summer solstice is that it's the midway point between planting and then the harvest in the fall. And cultures for so many hundreds of years have celebrated this significant time, and they're celebrating before the harvest, before all the fruits, all the everything has come to fruition. So it's really that knowingness, that trusting, that not needing to know every single detail and see, to really honor that process that's naturally unfolding.
Yeah, I love it. So many downloads are coming in as you speak. It's like the divine perfection. We don't question whether the sun's going to come out, right? We don't question whether when we, for the most part, we plant something, we water it, the sun, it's like this trust, right? And so what I'm, seeing again, there are all these beautiful metaphors or, synchronicities coming in, which is, plant the seeds of consciousness, right? Plant the seeds of our intention within our heart center. And then with the same level of, letting go and just, and beginning to celebrate in gratitude and envision, it's, if we pay attention, and I'll share a little bit more of what dropped in with that too, with Gaia and nature and our relationship to it. But, if we pay attention to the divine orchestration and brilliance of nature and the flow and the rhythms and the system of nature, it's constantly there to remind us of, when we surrender into the flow of our natural rhythm and our true north, everything orchestrates perfectly. Everything is in divine flow, right? Everything takes place. Everything manifests just as it's intended to manifest. So it's like a beautiful way of really further engaging a way of embodying the greater understanding of quantum manifestation, right? It's like you envision it, you trust it, you pour the gratitude on it, you know it's going to happen, and then you drop the mic and you walk away, and you just let it happen. You let it take place. Yeah.
too of summer solstice, since that's coming up and that's such a significant, you know, marker in time. So some of the ways is through gratitude, through a gratitude practice of, celebrating and connecting with everything that we're, thankful for. This is such a beautiful time to connect to the earth and, be outside in nature, whether it's with friends or in community, perhaps, going out and praying or meditating in and joined in community or by yourself and, really connecting to the energy that is available to us. It's amazing. We interviewed Pam Gregory recently, and she brought through about Rory Duff talking about the summer solstice energy and how the ley lines come into harmony during this time, which is remarkable.
Yeah, it is so remarkable. I mean, and there's, as you kind of go into the layers of quantum fabric, which, consequently are being more and more revealed in epic ways, right? As these plasma fields come in, they really assist us. They're a magnifying glass, but a magnifying glass, that also holds a field of greater digestibility and grounding in, of these higher levels of conscious awareness. And so, yeah, I feel like it's such an amazing time, as you said, to really connect with nature, to really connect with the elements, to really, and one thing today, as I was sitting outside this morning and I was meditating, I was, and I was bringing in gratitude. I just felt this such a huge, overwhelming sense of like gratitude for, for nature, for Gaia, for the water, for the air, and the summer brings such an abundant fragrance, there's a fragrance arguably in in sound and the smells and the, and the light. I mean, there's just such a, divine symphony of things taking place to ignite our deeper connection, right? This deeper connection field. And one of the things that came through as well in this time with the solstice, speaking directly to that, is that as this diamond blue plasma, the sixth element, continues to come in more and more layers and levels, the elemental grids of Gaia are increasing the bandwidth within all things. So the original blueprints of all of the elemental frequencies of, earth, air, fire, water, ether, are resurrecting through this diamond blue plasma, through the other layers and levels and spectrum of plasma light that's coming in, of course, through the solar frequencies they're dropping in. And so, of course, our physical bodies are constructed of all of these elements, right? We are the elemental frequencies of Gaia. So our blueprint is, again, is without us really doing anything other than showing up and breathing, is really opening up to such a huge igniting and capability to hold more light and to receive that light as the nutrient that it is. So what's being encouraged here is to really begin to allow, the trees and nature and water and the animals who have already surrendered, into the flow of their core essence, right? From the very beginning of coming in here, right? They're such deep and beautiful teachers, but to connect and to allow ourselves as we ground, as we connect, as we're in nature, to receive more and more of what we're meant to receive in terms of these upgrades and these sort of cellular expansion.
Being able to appreciate nature, being able to appreciate our surroundings, and just that quietness that really speaks to the energy that we're moving through with the summer solstice coming. That also marks the entering of Cancer season, and that's a really, it's, for me, I always feel a significant shift. Moving from an air sign of Gemini, which is more like social and outward and, curious and explorative, into Cancer, which is such a, you know, sensitive, it's such an intuitive, it's, really connecting and honoring our feelings and emotions. It is a quieter, more receptive energy. It's that, divine mother energy, and in the zodiac, the Cancer rules the fourth house of the zodiac, which is all about family. It's about roots. It's about tradition. It's about our own environment, our own inner world, and how we nurture that. And, Cancer is symbolized by the crab, which has this, outer protective shell, but inside is really soft, really sensitive, really intuitive, and connected, deeply connected to water, which you mentioned. And what's interesting, I always find about the axis. There's always an axis, right? So there's an axis between Cancer and Capricorn, and Capricorn rules the 10th house, which is about productivity. It's about like our forward movement, how we're, building things, and perhaps, speaks to our career. But there's always this really, really important balance between tending to our own inner environment, our family, nurturing ourselves, nurturing our body, in order to have any type of outward movement in the world. It's that as within, so without, that energy that is so important, of really coming back, honoring, how am I honoring myself? How am I honoring my commitments, my family, all of these things, like what feels really nurturing and supportive during this time.
Beautiful. Yeah. And it's so interesting. So I feel like I have to bring it in because it just keeps coming through over and over again. It's like, you know, and as we do that, and part of the beauty of the summer too, again, is all these colors and in the foods that are being brought forth and into expression, and the fruits and the vegetables. There's just so much color and diversity and sort of this rainbow of nourishment coming through. And so it's like, okay, celebrating in that, bringing it in, feeling into it, in the relationship to family and to nourishing and to supporting, but also again, like coming back into the awareness of the physical temple. And we know that's been a theme this year. Like, it's like, okay, this is all fantastic, and there's so much happening, and we must, it's ascension, right? It's bringing it in, it's finding ways to ground it, it's finding ways to support it, it's finding ways to nourish it and to root it into, to all of our bodies, the physical being, of course, the sort of the last to be able to transition, because it's simply just more moves at a slower, frequency. So, allowing ourselves to feel into, to connect with the earth, and all the colors and layers and levels of nourishment to bring into that experience.
Metaphor of a cocoon and a cave. And those are really metaphors that are coming through for the season of, just in a very soft sense of building a supportive, nurturing environment energetically for ourselves, coming back to a daily practice, the importance of that, and to really, really, know that we have, such safe and nourishing places to, to go to.
Yeah, I love that. Well, what's interesting, which may even feel like a contrast, but I'm so interested too to see like how you tie this in astrologically. And I know too, we're going to get into some of these beautiful sharings that are happening and create more of a communication, a connection field here. Is that with all what's taking place, especially, this sort of epic moment, if you will. And of course, we know it's not a moment because, we're already feeling the energies of solstice taking place right now. And we're going to feel the energies of solstice, taking place for many, many days, if not weeks after as well, because in the shifting, in this more plasmic reality that we're beginning to ground and root here, um, the bandwidth of these very monumental and epic moments, and portals and activations of our universal system of Gaia, etc., like as summer solstice and in Lionsgate, etc. The energy is expressed and felt for much more linear time than in previous times, and in previous linear years when all these supportive systems were not present, right? We're kind of absent, right? And so one of the things I find particularly interesting about this is that there may be, and I feel like at some point you brought this in, and I just can't remember, what was said of it, but there are a lot of people, being nudged to move, to, not just to physically move and not just to keep things moving, but to geographically move. And so what dropped in a very big way and has, been taking place over the last few weeks here, and is really going to have a whole new, sort of expression of catalyzing this, is that the geographic grid networks are opening to additional layers of the Akash. So it's not to say that they weren't present there before, but the plasma light that's coming through is activating, sort of taking it out of its invisible field or invisible or non-access, if you will, and bringing it into a much greater access. So this is going to show up differently for everybody. Some people who come in specifically to work with the grids, I mean, arguably we're all working with the grids in some way, we know this, but who have different layers of their blueprint are going to be expanding into accessing a lot of the layers of the Akash and the original founder records, etc., that have long awaited, humanity's long awaited to have the true account of history, right? So that's really surfacing, and so the veils are melting. The plasma is coming in, it's melting the veils, it's further igniting the connection field within our own unique blueprint, the very specific. So a lot of us know. We know when there's an imbalance. We know when our where we're living, whether it's a town, a state, a country. We know. We know when it's not meeting the highest and best, expression of self-love and nourishment, etc. But we've been able in the past to kind of sweep that under the rug a little bit, or just kind of deal with it, or kind of ignore it, or downplay it. And what's being shown is that's going to be ramping up. And so there's so many layers to the quantum fabric of this and like how it plays out. But there wanted to be a seed dropped in for this, because as you're talking about Pam Gregory bringing in, and talking about how summer solstice really brings the ley lines of Gaia into this, more synchronistic flow and sort of expanded, energetically expanded, and more, tangible connection to, so does that activate within our own ley lines, right? As we're the micro. And this is playing into this significant interaction with these plasma fields of light and the solar light that's coming in and really opening things up. So it's not to say that we weren't already accessing significant bandwidths of Akash, etc., given our traveling to a certain location, or but it's opening up in a whole new way. And so having an awareness of it, we can participate in it, with childlike curiosity and bringing in our tools and the different things that we've, perhaps used in different ways before, and applying them more into, our daily life. Okay, well, what does this mean here, and how can I play with this? And I'm certain there's some people right now that are. This is like a little piece of the puzzle that's been perhaps missing for them. So additionally, I just want to touch in on when I was tapping into the earth and when I was tapping into summer solstice and like looking at the energy of it, there were these massive systems of this golden grid system, like which I feel is often referred to in my languaging from this One Source Collective as, as the golden Christos network, like the Christ consciousness, the unified field of consciousness, really kind of resurrecting within our own grid system, and in that of Gaia. And so the combination of that which is taking place during summer solstice and these diamond plasma portals that are opening is really taking this to a whole new level. So in the awareness of that, for those who come here with big assignments, which is arguably maybe everyone connected right now, of being, assisting in the resurrection of that unified field of consciousness of those Christos codes, right? These beautiful codes of pure law of one. That's very much igniting during summer solstice, and it looks like it just continues now. It's almost a circular expression, that comes forth, and it's just like igniting this whole new system of evolution of law of one within.
Bringing that through, how might that show up for people on an individual level?
Yeah, great question, because I think it's, it's going to uniquely show up for each one of us, right? And again, the light, right? It's like when it shines the light, it brings forth awareness, right? And so what do we do with that awareness? We can simply have the awareness. We can, put it over here, or we can focus our consciousness as source on, the curiosity of what is meant to unfold from our awareness of it, right? So if you're experiencing this right now and you're hearing this transmission coming through, and these seeds have been planted, there's no mistake, right? There's no coincidence as to you hearing this right now. So there's an invitation. There's an invitation to be explored, and that will show up uniquely for everybody here. There's some people that are very attuned and aware of how they're meant to navigate through and with these golden grid networks, and with Christ consciousness and law of one. And then there are others that are maybe just sort of awakening to this aspect of their blueprint. And so again, these consistent practices of showing up, in silence and stillness and connection, or in movement, through, connection, and just commanding greater clarity and awareness, right? Having fun, journaling, grounding it in, allowing it, creating through art, if you're a very creative person and you feel you get your most connection with, with higher planes of consciousness, allow yourself to create. What are the colors that want to be expressed in this? What are the energies that want to come through? So I feel like we're just scratching the surface of what is meant by a second coming of Christ consciousness in many. And this particular summer solstice and all the energies surrounding it are really helping that to, to sort of erupt into greater awareness. Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Wow. I know we have some questions in the chat. Should we open it up? Linda asks, so the portals we work with stem from the grids above, below, and within us, or do these portals just passing through the grids?
So, there's so many different portal systems and so many different grids. And part of our original angelic template is literally the micro of the macro of Gaia. So all the stargates, portals, and systems that have been placed within Gaia to connect us to the higher dimensional planes of connection and consciousness and multi-dimensional, multiversal, family lineages, if you will, they come and they show up in so many different ways. And so there's certain, portals that are placed within, sort of these more charged energy systems within the grids, but there are arguably infinite grids that exist within and upon Gaia and within our own selves and cells, right? So, so there's not just one way to answer that, because there's so many different representations of portals and of grid systems. When I look into the quantum field and begin to connect and to bring forth, and to channel through this column of, the One Source Collective, everything starts to now show up as layers of light grids, like systems, like layers of this fabric of all of existence, right? So in that, there's, if you zoom in, right, if you kind of take a microscope, on it and kind of zoom in like you would on Google Maps, right? You know, you see there are all these subsystems and additional grids, and and this is for this purpose and this is for that purpose. So yeah, there's just so many ways and expressions of how portals, exist, and then there's the fact that we, as a high vibrational multiversal technology, of pure source, we are portals, right? We are portals. We have a whole humongous system of grids and portals within us, our chakra systems, our meridians, our ley lines, our gateways. And then two, the directing of our consciousness, we can create, open, and access portals. So it's one of those things that it's just like, it's so infinite in nature, and each one of us is meant to really follow our inner wisdom and truth, and to navigate through it, with childlike curiosity and exploration. I believe that's helpful.
Holly was asking about any recommendations for those having trouble sleeping during the full moon, which is such a great question.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because I feel like, maybe we'll go through a whole decade of our life where we see more, like we have more of this taking place during a full moon. And then all of a sudden we shift, and it's now during full moon we're extra tired, and it's during the new moon that we feel more. So again, I feel like, going into nature more during these times when there are these huge and epic energies coming through, going into nature, connecting, grounding, feeling into the body, like, as this energy is coming through, I feel like I'm feeling a little bit anxious. I'm feeling like, I'm very charged right now. Well, maybe that's an encouragement to go into to experience more physical movement, right? To help to move that energy through ourselves, right? To create a system whereby maybe we feel like we are inviting more rest in than when it comes to nighttime, right? So maybe increasing our physical activity a little bit. Others are feeling extremely tired and worn out from it and need more sleep. So maybe in those circumstances, we just honor that and we allow ourselves to get more rest, and if we feel like, wow, I just, I have these things set up and I have a lot to do, and it feels like, equal weightedness and importance to do those things, then, maybe participating in some of those known activities that are chi building, right? Like walking, and weight bearing activities, whether it be a yoga practice, or participating in qigong or tai chi, where you're helping to harness the energies that in a way in which supports our constitution, because in every now moment we show up differently, right? So just feeling into it. But specifically, Holly, too, I feel like perhaps what I'm hearing for you, and take, of course, what resonates and toss the rest out, is maybe engaging in some nice tea, bringing in some magnesium, and just really kind of engaging in this soft and deep process of creating more calm and harmony within your endocrine system and your nervous system. So shutting off all electronics, all external stimuli, spending time outside, listening to the crickets, connecting to to the natural flow and rhythm of Gaia.
And for me personally, it's really helpful to really unwind before bedtime and to create that stillness and that calmness prior to even getting into bed, whether it's, us taking a salt bath or, drinking some tea, just like really, letting my body wind down. I like to stretch and kind of move before bedtime. And I find that, like, if I give myself that like gradual stillness and calmness, it helps me fall into a deeper, more nourishing sleep.
Yeah, and sometimes too, if all of these things seem to be falling short of the intention, maybe we just, in the surrender, right? In the surrender of sort of the more restlessness, and just kind of being with it and just finding a place of stillness, we create, you know, a different yet significant state of sort of reboot and nourishment in that way. Because I do remember several years ago having some, like, you know, several nights leading up to the full moon and after, where, you know, I was just wide awake in the middle of the night and I was getting all these downloads and all this light was coming through, and I was just like, you know, I have stuff to do and I'm tired, you know, type of thing. But then I just realized, okay, I get it. You know, I kept hearing, like, just surrender, just be in the moment, just experience, you know, you'll catch up on your rest, and, you know, and that kind of thing. And in that, I felt like I gave my nervous system and my endocrine system and everything enough of you know, respite, that, you know, I had enough energy to kind of move through the next day fluidly. So, and I know someone here has mentioned valerian root, and of course, and now chamomile, and yeah, love those two beautiful plant consciousness as well.
I love the message of surrender. You know, with regards to sleep, especially, and you know, this has come through in sleeping. You know, sometimes we're taught traditionally of taking 8 hours of rest, but really, you know, if your body needs more rest one night, whether it's 9 hours or 10 hours, or just, you know, really honoring that and listening to what your body needs. You know, whatever that is in that given moment.
Ah, love that. I think there's, Pat asked perhaps you a question.
So, you know, with the full moon that is taking place right now, it can create headaches sometimes because there's just that added intensity that's taking place. It is a time, again, of emotional, you know, release. So I think that this can be a time where you might experience a little bit of tension that is, you know, hopefully moving through your body. So just honoring that, and, you know, I find on the full moon that it can be helpful to give yourself, your body, a little bit extra time to rest and recharge and replenish.
Yeah, that's great advice. And also too, it sounds like, you know, this migraine has been going on for, you know, for quite a few months now, and, you know, and sometimes, in that, of course, in this full moon energy, to your point, it's like, okay, finally, it's like, I really need to take a different approach or response to, you know, maybe, or explore another lens of perception as to, you know, how I might be able to move beyond it, right? And so, you know, what I almost sense in this is maybe an invitation to work with somebody, some form of, or perhaps doing it yourself, just in the awareness, because of course we know we're very capable of, you know, assisting and healing ourselves. But sometimes when we've been experiencing some form of discomfort and or discordance within our system, you know, we're not in a place where we're feeling as adept in our own healing, self-healing practice. But it feels like this may have some relationship to this shift in the poles that took place, and this realignment that's happening with the geomagnetic fields of Gaia, and specifically, you know, it feels like there's a relationship between that and your spinal alignment, and the access of your cerebral spinal fluid moving through fluidly. So, Pat, I sense that if it resonates with you and you have someone that you can go to go see a craniosacral specialist and see if that can assist.
I love your question. When you say follow your true north, are you also referring to the north node in your chart, or more just heart and soul inner guidance? I would say yes, absolutely, 1000%. The north node is such a great indicator of, you know, something specific that your soul wants to focus on and explore in this lifetime. And it can be so helpful. Actually, Jan Spiller has an incredible book. It's Astrology for Your Soul. and it's all about North Node astrology. So there's such an in-depth perspective for each of the signs and houses. So I highly recommend that if you haven't read it already. And also when Pam Gregory was recently on Unity, she brought through some amazing wisdom around following the North Node as well.
Yeah. So there is such a synchronicity and you know of our true north, right? Of our truest and highest sort of flow in our expression of our of our divine blueprint here, and then bringing the astrology into it to further assist in the unfolding and understanding. Yeah, I love how the terminology is so synchronistic. Yeah.
Stephen was asking about the strawberry supermoon. Yes, like for my understanding, it is because it's closer, and also that it'll appear almost like a pink strawberry in the sky. And also, taking place so close to summer solstice around, the blossoming of some fruit. And I think that those are some of the significant uh, reasons behind the strawberry supermoon.
Yeah, and Pam, when you say emotional, yeah, absolutely. And one thing I was showing and I was hearing is as above, so below. And so it almost feels like, in whatever modality that resonates, or should you choose, there's something within your root chakra and your womb chakra that's really tied into the emotional center, into your emotional body, that's wanting to be released. So, whether it be a trauma, whether it be something that, you've long been in awareness of, there's an invitation for a deeper letting go. And it feels like as, you release sort of this contraction, and it almost looks like the gateway in between the womb chakra and the root chakra. As that releases, as you find and connect with the emotional imprint that is being held there, you reopen a lot of channels and flows within the physical body, and kind of assist in kind of lifting that migraine. But again, it feels like, even though a lot of it is feels like it's held in those lower two chakras, reminding the physical body in your intention, in your awareness, and your releasing of that, should it resonate, having someone to assist in reminding the physical body how to get back into that, that rhythm and that flow. Yay. Okay. How do I move the thing up? Amazing technical skills. I felt like I was being guided to look at a question up here. Let's see. Okay, yeah, here it is. Okay, so there's Cheryl is saying that she recently moved to Sarasota, and she's heard that there's gateway that she feels it will come through. Yeah, absolutely. So Cheryl, interestingly, so we live in Florida. I don't know if you knew that. Emily and I live in Florida. We live in Tampa. So welcome. And yeah, there's such a huge, and this is what, again, the geographic grid networks, right? Opening to additional layers. There's a massive reveal of the Atlantean energies and other energies and timelines, predating that even. But really opening and epic ways of access and activation here in Florida right now. So my guess is that you've come to really connect to whatever is part of your blueprint in relationship to that. And I feel like that massive gateway within Sarasota is in this whole process of a pretty significant rebirth that is going to be catalyzed and is not separate of what was being brought in and spoken about that golden grid network, that Christos network. So bringing an awareness of that. So maybe, there can be some playful exploration as we move into this next many weeks, months, years of greater access. Yeah. All right. Well, we are so grateful and honored that all of you have chosen to spend your time and your heart and your light connecting with us today. And yeah, we're really looking forward to experiencing all of these amazing energies and life together here as a community. We have some really beautiful and brilliant way sharers that will be joining us. We have a pretty full schedule for July and moving into August. So stay tuned for that. And of course, feel free to share with us, via our
support at opentotransparency.org.
Yeah, and let us know how things are going, how your journey is unfolding. Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, this has been so much fun as always. And just, again, so much gratitude and sending blessings of love and grace and fluidity during this time of big, big waves of ascension.
So much love, everyone. Thank you.